Thunderbolt. Operation initiated. Rescue all hostages. Gather intelligent information.
In 1988, Taito released the follow-up to its arcade hit, Operation Wolf. This follow-up went by the name of Operation Thunderbolt and is arguably a very loose adaptation of the Israel Defense Forces 1976 raid on Entebbe. Just like Operation Wolf, the arcade cabinet features two fixed-mounted machine guns that pointed towards the screen. These could be moved around to aim at the enemies on the screen, and featured a button for launching bombs. As the player, you control either Roy Adams or Hardy Jones, two Green Berets who must save American hostages from a hijacked airliner which was forced to land in the fictional African province of Calabria. To accomplish their mission, they must capture 6 different bases and try to save the hostages along the way. Sounds simple, but don't all games.
Needed in rescuing hostages. Head for enemy headquarters.
Let's start off the ports with a ZX Spectrum version. Now, I have mixed feelings about this one. On a technical point of view, it is really good. Loads of on-screen action, detailed sprites, and a very good recreation of the arcade looks. But on the other hand, it's stupidly difficult. There is too much going on and it is very difficult to see where you are firing because there is no target sight. This is a great shame because if the developers had pulled their heads out of their asses and actually looked at how ridiculous they had made this and toned down the amount of stuff on screen, it could have been a fantastic port. The Amstrad CPC port is based upon the ZX Spectrum version, and as is the case, it's exactly the same with the same issues. On the plus side, it is in colour now and does look very nice, but with way too much coming at you, the game really isn't as good as it should have been. Believe it or not, but Operation Thunderbolt actually got a release on the ill-fated Amstrad GX4000. But is it any better than the CPC version? Well, no, not really. The core game is 100% identical, besides getting more continues in the GX4000 version. Graphically, the GX4000 does look better thanks to the extra colours the system has available over the CPC, but apart from that and the nicer looking hood, it's the exact same game. Oh, there is one plus point I guess. We now have a dedicated button for the bomb. Here we go with the Commodore 64 port, and as so often is the case, the C64 port is not based upon the ZX Spectrum or Amstrad CPC versions, but is its own unique version, and that's a good thing. While the graphics don't look as close to the arcade as the other ports so far, they do have a nice level of detail to them. This version is also more in line with the arcade's vision when it comes to the amount of enemies on screen. This makes for a more enjoyable experience, as it is now possible to actually take down most of the enemies before being killed. The game isn't perfect, mind you. Sometimes your gun will stop firing even though you have ammo, and the collision can be a little questionable at times. Even with those slight complaints, I do think the C64 port is a good one. Oh, you can also use the light gun, mouse and other control methods.
Operation initiated. Rescue all hostages.
Oh wow, the Amiga port is really good. It has pretty much all of the arcade's presentation, including the after-stage speech. The graphics are clearly not as good as the arcade machine and lack the smooth scaling, but they are very good for the home port of its time. Good size and full of detail. Even the audio is pretty good, although the lack of in-game music does hurt it a little. There are not many good arcade to home ports on the Amiga, but Operation Thunderbolt definitely belongs in the small elite group of worthy arcade ports.
Arrived at enemy hideouts.
And here we are with the Atari ST version. This port is basically the same as the Amiga version, but with arguably worse audio. The speech is definitely more grainy sounding, but I do like the gun sound effects more. As for looks and playability, it's practically the same game.
Made contact with intelligent agents and obtained information. Confiscate ammunitions and means of transportation.
Let's finish up with the Super Nintendo port. This one will come as a surprise to many, but it's actually worse than the Amiga and Atari ST versions. Yes, it's true. The game kind of retains the arcade story, although there are changes to the main plot and other points added. However, the core story is there. The problem with this version is that it looks pretty awful. The level of detail just isn't there like you see in the Amiga port. The Super Nintendo version also slows down quite badly at times, and some of the later into the screen sections are incredibly choppy and slow. Even worse than the 8-bit micro ports. On the plus side, this version can be played with either a control pad, mouse, or that stupid looking and quite frankly ridiculous Super Scope bazooka thing. And let's take a look at all those versions of Operation Thunderbolt running side by side.